Hey, it's Romania Black, and I would like to apologize because I messed up. I done goofed. I done goofed. So, I put a comment out on YouTube for last week's video, but I didn't realize it until the Discord when Volume 26 came out on Patreon, and Kelsey in the Discord was like, "You missed a chapter," and I was like, "What?" And so like it was just like earth shattering, because I'll tell you what I did. I have this piece of paper, and it sits right here by my computer, and when I was planning out the manga reads, I went to the wiki page for the manga volumes. I did like what I've done with Yona the Dawn. I put my hand up next to the volume covers so I couldn't see what they look like because I didn't want to be spoiled, and I just scrolled down and wrote down chapter numbers. So I have on this handy sheet of paper all the chapter numbers, and I have volume 25, chapters 220 to 228, volume 26, 289 to 236, volume 27, 237 to 247. My brain did not compute that that's 11 chapters and this was 8 chapters. So I missed a chapter. I was like, wow, I talked for a really long time regardless. So there's that. But so my goof is now your benefit, because that means that we have, instead of 9 chapters to get through, we have 11, because for some reason this volume already had 10 chapters instead of the regular 9. Don't know why, but that's what it is. Also, you'll note that for those of you in the Discord, for your benefit, there's a little tiny note that says Wine-chan for volume 28. I've not forgotten. That's going to be next week. Yikes. So, but yeah, so we're going to be doing 11 chapters of the semifinals tonight. I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited indeed. This game is so good. Koshien and Sawamura are like on the top of their game. I do want to make note that there's been several people in the comments a few volumes back. I was questioning who the semifinals were in season 1, and I thought it was Yakushi, but apparently that was the game, that was the quarterfinals. The semifinals last year for Sato was Sensen, and I was like, no wonder I don't remember. I feel so bad for Maki. No love for Maki. I feel bad. I love the name Maki for characters, and so I really was excited when we got him in a series, because there's Makis in other series that I really like, and I was like, oh cool, a character called Maki, and he's not forgettable, but his team is, and I was like, woof. Except for they have that coach that, you know, he's pretty well known for like relying on making his team members do whatever he tells them to. That's pretty much all that we know Sensen for, so that's sad. But good thing is, this semifinal is the opposite of that, and it is so exciting and wonderful. Sawamura and Amahisa are on top of their game. Amahisa's having a little stress moment, but Sawamura just went through the exact same thing in the previous inning, so they're just trading blows back and forth. And so things are crazy. Ichidai third's up 1-0, but that could all change. And then Sonata's shown up. Raichi is off. We had a little conversation about this in the Discord of where Raichi could be. And Kelsey and some others were saying that maybe it was that he's with his mom. I don't know. It sits weird with me, even though I know they're divorced. And so it would, I guess, make sense for Raizo to say his acquaintance referring to his wife. But Raizo strikes me as the type of person that he would say my ex-wife and like have no shame. He's like, my ex-wife, that's where my kid's at. Like, I just feel like Raizo's that type of person. And the fact that he didn't, that it's an acquaintance, makes it seem like it's not a relative or his spouse. So I don't know. Maybe we'll find out where Raichi's been this whole time at some point in the manga. Terajima, you bring this up. You have a reason for it, so what's the deal? I don't know. If Raizo knows, I said Kunitomo in like one of the last videos. What if Raizo knows like Animal, and Raichi sees Chris Senpai and everybody just falls for Chris Senpai? I need that. That'd be great. But we'll see. But Sonata's here watching the game for reasons we're about to find out, I'm sure. I feel like maybe because him and Amahisa kind of ended on bad terms where they didn't even shake hands. He was just that mad about the loss. So maybe Sonata's hit a wall and he's going to watch this game and see if it inspires him. I want it to. I want him to see. And you know what? Maybe he'll get to see Furuya pitch. He'll get to see Furuya pitch in this game at some point. We talked about this in the last volume. I don't know if they're going to take out Sawamura or not. I feel like maybe in like the 7th or 8th inning, they'll trade him out for Furuya to finish out the game. Especially if Amahisa gets traded out. But if Sonata could see, because Sonata questioned Furuya back, you know, before they started the tournament, being like, oh, hey, you're not the ace anymore. Are you okay? And Furuya's like, yeah, I'm fine. So I wonder if that's going to all kind of come full circle or not. I don't know, but I've talked enough and I'm pretty excited. So yeah, so we got a long volume tonight. I have poured myself a soda. I'm ready to go. Get some caffeine in my system. And we got 11 chapters to get through, y'all. I am so freaking excited. So I need to get myself a piece of paper and then we are going to start. So we are going to start Ace of Diamond Volume 27 chapters for tonight. 237 to 247. So I'll actually get to see how the volume actually was supposed to end along with the start of the next volume. Great. Cool. Well, that's good. We got 2 chapters on top of after 240, 235. So I don't feel so bad about it ending on a crazy note. But we're going to start this volume and the bonus chapter. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. Let's do this. I know why you all have recommended Wine Chan for next episode. I have not been that fired up about a game, reading or watching in anime, or maybe in real life, in a long time. Because, oh my god, I don't know, if Sato wins this somehow, they have to score, it's still 0-1. It's still 0-1 in the bottom of the 8th, going into the 9th inning. We're going into the final inning of the game. It's still 0-1. If Shirasu does not score this inning to tie it up, then both sides, then because they've made it to where Sato has the last chance to score at the end of the game, right? So if Shirasu's hit gets taken out, and Kurmoshi does not make it home, then they only have one more chance to score and tie it up, or score a winning run to win the game. I'm amazed. I honestly, if Sato wins this, I don't know how the finals are going to compare to this game, because this game is so freaking good. And here's the thing: we'll talk about this. I took like lots of notes, lots of notes. This may be a long discussion, but then again, I don't know. We're gonna take lots of notes, but I think what makes this game so unique and wonderful is that it's been all Sawamura versus all Amahisa. It has been a pitcher's duel, and they comment on that during this game. They're like, this really came down to the pitchers, oddly enough. And so that's the crazy thing. And I think that if Sato wins, when we get to Inashiro, it is not going to be Mei versus Sawamura. It is going to be Mei versus Sawamura, Furuya, Kaneda, and hopefully Nori. That's what it's going to be. And I think that's what makes this game so dynamic, is because I'm a big Sawamura fan. So this is Sawamura's best game. This is the best game he's ever played. Hands down. Best game he's ever played. I do not think he will be if they win this game, I don't think they'll be as on going into the final, because he'll probably be just exhausted, right? And wore out. But I think this is Sawamura's best game he's ever played. And it's amazing. And here's the thing. With Inashiro, I think it's going to come down to the relay being necessary, because Kunitomo is not a relay man. Kunitomo does not believe in the pitcher relay. He's like, we have an awesome pitcher. He's our ace. He'll do what he has to do. Net crack, finish him, and we're done, right? That's Kunitomo's way. And they don't really rely. I mean, they have Akamatsu, who is not, don't shake a stick at Akamatsu. He's a demon. I'm thoroughly convinced. I think Akamatsu can handle himself and be a fine pitcher. But Mei is greedy, and Mei wants to have it all. So Mei is not going to want to give up that mound unless he's made to. Where I think that Kataoka is going to be like, we're going to go back. If we face Inashiro in the final, it's going to go back to that tried and true strategy that we tried back last year against Inashiro, but our pitchers weren't where they are now, so it didn't work out. But now they are where they're at, so it may work out that the relay versus the one pitcher, and there's so many little foreshadowing things that I think are going to tie into that. Obviously, I don't want spoilers, right? But I think it's going to tie into that, and we're going to talk about it in this volume. This volume was incredible. This volume may be one of my favorites because it was so intense, and there was just so many moments. Like, I'm going to go back and take so many screenshots from top to bottom. Oh my God. We got that extra I'm glad we got that extra chapter. They put that extra chapter in there because Terajima's like, we'll see if he does it. I'm like, damn it. No, because if it had ended on 246, I guess you could have ended it there with Senko missing the ball. You could have ended the volume there and it would have been a cliffhanger. But with Shirasu, it just, that powerful, it connects to Nori. I think it's a much better way to end off the volume. I like the way it ends off, even though it's a cliffhanger. And Wine-chan is so coming out next volume. It's going to happen. Wine-chan at the ready. God, I was just really, really into this volume a lot. So 237 is actually, we'll get into the chapter comment notes that I've somehow made. 237 is where volume 26 should have ended. And Terajima just loves to draw Miyuki. It's just there. Any chance Terajima has to make Miyuki look good, it's this volume. We'll get to volume 2 from volume 27, but he just loves to draw Miyuki. He's great. Amahisa, nervous about shouldering. I like that we finally got, I talked about it in the last volume, I was like, are we ever going to go back to that? And we do. If I had just read an extra chapter, it would have tied back to that. So there you go. But he goes back to that conversation in his head that he had with Manaka, and he's like, I'm shouldering the team. He's like, I don't know if I can do that. Like, I'm nervous. And Manaka's like, yeah, you're gonna be nervous. He's like, a pitcher's job, especially if you're the ace, is you're either gonna lead your team to victory or you're going to cause them to fall into ruin. And it's like, and I do think Manaka has very much the pitcher is the keystone of the entire team mentality. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think Kateoka has brought up a good point in the past with Sawamura, when Sawamura was nervous about it. And other players have done this too, in saying that no, it's not just the pitcher, it's the whole team. The pitcher can pitch as great as he can. And yes, the pitcher can lead a team to victory. And yes, a pitcher can lead a team to ruin, but it's not just on them. And I think that gets thrown out so much during volume 27, this concept of one person leading the team and inspiring it versus everyone inspiring each other. And I think that with Amahisa, it keeps coming back to Manaka saying, you're the ace, your job is to inspire the team. And that kind of ties back to Inashiro and Mei's whole breakdown. And Amahisa believes that he's like, I'm lighting a fire for my team. I'm this genius pitcher. I'm leading my team to victory. And for Amahisa, he has kind of a different mentality than Mei about it. But with Sawamura's like, yeah, I know that it's my role to step in and do what my fellow teammates cannot do on the mound. But Sawamura's like, it's not just me. It's my whole team. So I feel like there is a Sato is a team unit and they function as a unit. Whereas like with Senko, a lot of it's being put on Amahisa's shoulders right now. And he's handling it fine. And he thinks his teammates are reliable. But at the end of the day, Amahisa's like, I'm the one leading my team to victory. And at the end of the day, I think Sawamura's like, we're all going to lead ourselves to victory. And there is a difference there. So I think that's worth noting. But I also like how Manaka and Tamba, I kind of ship them together a little bit. I like Manaka and Tamba, even if they're just platonic besties. I do like them as a pair. But both of them, Amahisa getting advice from Manaka, Sawamura getting advice from Tamba before the game. I think that both of them function as retired third years in their roles really well in this series. Sawamura calling, I thought I read it as Cape Cod, and I was like, but it's Cap God, but he was calling Miyuki Cap Bomb and Cap God. Never change, Sawamura, never change. I really liked in this, Tamaki was really cool in volume, at the end of this volume and into volume 27, because Tamaki is really showing his role as a catcher and trying to think up these strategies. So I liked the catcher duel in chapter 237, where we had Miyuki and Tamaki trying to like outsmart one another on the mound. It's cool because for most of this series, we have pitcher duels and we have the pitchers kind of feeling each other out. But it's cool when we get to see the catchers doing it. I like when we get to see the catchers trying to like out-strategize one another. And Tamaki and Miyuki are kind of similar. So we don't get a lot with Tamaki in this series, but I get that he has kind of like a Miyuki vibe. I like it, especially his battery with Amahisa, because Amahisa and Sawamura are quite similar. And so I like that. I like that they were thinking about, should they walk Miyuki? And the crowd like debating on whether he should walk Miyuki either. We were talking about this in the Discord, I think it was a couple weeks ago, but remember when Miyuki wasn't like the main canon? Remember when Miyuki like wasn't the best batter and now he's like the most feared batter or one of the most feared ones? Amazing how much growth our boy Miyuki has had. It's great. And I do like Sawamura and Amahisa both have a very similar mentality in this game. Amahisa in chapter 237, he's like, well, the earlier hit can't be helped. And the walk was all on me. He takes responsibility for it, which is good. And he's like, but I am going to just do what I can to be the best pitcher I can. And Sawamura kind of has the same mentality in this game too. So Sawamura and Kosei, even though the way they come at pitching is different, they both have like the same spirit as a pitcher, and I respect that. I like that both pitchers respect each other. They're both trying to outdo each other, but it's like they both are like kindred spirits. It's kind of cool. I like how Amahisa is very different than Mei. I feel like Mei and Sawamura, they have some similarities, but they are quite different. And Amahisa and Sawamura, I think, have more similarities to them than other pitchers in this series with Sawamura. But yeah, so that double spread, he wants to win. He wishes to lead the team to win. There are so many double spreads at the end of this volume into volume 27. So many good double spreads. Terajima, mwah. And so many players got to shine. Like Amahisa gets a really cool double spread in 237. And he wants them to go to Koshien with him. And I like that Kosei, in this moment, at the end of chapter 237, at the end of volume 26, Kosei, he's not being selfish and wanting things for himself. He wants it for his team. I was like, that's so cool. And Sawamura, we already knew he wanted it for his team, but it's cool to see Kosei accept that he wants his team to do well and them all to go together. That was really cool. So, chapter 238, Miyuki and Shirasu both get out on that 3-6-1 double play. That double play was really good. It was like, oh my God. Amahisa shows that he shouts from joy from the first base. And what I love about chapter 238 is that there's a really cool parallel and bookend that they do with this chapter. You see Amahisa shouting from first base, and he's like so riled up, like with emotion from getting that double play. And Sawamura is like watching Amahisa like in awe, like he's getting motivated. He's getting hyped up from it. He's like, okay, all right, cool. And we'll talk about that at the end of this chapter. But I feel like I like that we see that Amahisa, he's fired up from his loss from Yakushi and Sanada. And that's where the connection is that Amahisa, at the end of the chapter of 238, he says, I was motivated when I was facing Yakushi by their ace Sanada. He inspired me to move forward and get better. And you see Amahisa not only get fired up from Sawamura and want to get better, but you see it flipped where Sawamura is watching Amahisa and he's getting fired up too. So these pitchers are motivating each other throughout this duel, and it's really, really cool. And here we have Sanada watching the game. We still don't exactly know why Sanada is watching the game. I feel like we're not going to find out until the end of the match. But Sanada is there. Sanada is there. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Sanada is there watching. I do like the black shirt that he has with flames. For some reason, it reminds me of like a Harley Davidson or like a motorcycle or a mechanic shirt. So I'm like, that's so bizarre. It's weird to see what I did competitive speech and we all had to wear suits for it. So it was kind of like our uniform. So it was always weird to see people outside of their suits, outside of competition, to see what they actually wore in real life. You're like, And so it's kind of funny to see these baseball players that we only see in uniforms throughout 90% of the series, to see what they wear outside of it. It's like, oh, is that your style? Huh, interesting. And Sanada just looks like he could work in a motorcycle shop, basically. It's interesting. Zono, I'm glad that for volume 27, we got one little thing about Zono's foot. Just enough to remind you that Zono's foot is injured, so if it comes up in the next volume, me and Wine-chan can scream about it. So I was like, damn it, no! But yeah, we get a reminder about Zono's foot. Everybody in the stands is starting to notice, but obviously everybody on Sato is so riled up and like on such adrenaline, they're not noticing. And so they're too worried about Nori to notice about Zono. So I'm glad that Zono's foot was just brought up this one time, and it didn't seem to be a detriment. Like he was able to get on base later and be fine. But I'm like, Terajima, don't you be saving this for volume 28. Don't you be doing that. I don't want it. So top of the 5th inning is where we start this volume. That we already got to the end of the 8th inning. I did not think we were going to get that far. I thought we were going to get to like the 7th inning and stop. And when things started to get kind of fast at the beginning of this volume, I was like, whoa, we're getting through innings way too fast. Hold on. We got through the 5th and 6th and 7th inning pretty quickly, and then it kind of slowed down for a bit for the rest of the volume. But I was like, this is going too fast. But at the top of the 5th, through the 4th inning, Sawamura has only pitched 38 times, which I think is pretty good. Pretty good amount of pitching. He looked like he kind of had bags under his eyes for a second, and I was like, Sawamura, no. But I think it's just fatigue and the shadows and everything. The sun's like high in the air. I think that was it more than anything. But he gets 3 outs, and Miyuki, he says that they're getting a better handle on Kosei They're getting a better handle on things. And Kosei, I like that every time the inning, right up until about the 8th inning when Kosei's starting to get frustrated because of the heat. And it's because of the heat more than anything. I like that he still tips his hat to Sawamura, like, still doing good, still doing all right. And I like that Kosei acknowledges that the run that they scored is not a guaranteed lock-in that they're going to win. The Kosei is like, yeah, we scored a run, but that does not guarantee we are going to win this. Sato is going to fight us to the bitter end. And I'm like, yes, they are. And I like that he acknowledges that. And that end page where Kosei strikes Sawamura out, and it's like the end page of the two of them. Terajima, there were some great pages and expressions in this. It's just like amazing. Top of his game. Top of his game. I love it. So then chapter 239, we have Kosei, and I'm reading my notes, and he says he's going to use Sawamura to get better. He's like, I want to keep evolving and going to new heights. I mean, you Sawamura are going to be a stepping stone on my way to accomplishing that, and then we'll talk online about it. And Sawamura's like, no. But I like that he says that. And so the reporters are talking about, we're in the 5th inning. We're at the midway point of the game. What will be crucial is when do they switch out pitchers? At this point, we're about to enter the final inning. I don't know if they're going to switch out pitchers. I don't know if they're going to. I don't think they will. I think they're going to let Sawamura and Amahisa pitch till the end of the game. I think they're going to. I could be wrong. They could put Furuya in the 9th inning. They could put Furuya in. The thing about it is, and we'll talk about this with the pitching and the coach. We're going to talk about this. It's going to get brought up here. But the pitcher change out, if it happens in this game, is going to be crucial. Because if you do it at the wrong time, you can't go back and it could mess things up. But I'm going to talk about it later when the coach says something on here. And I thought it was this chapter, but I'm still looking to see if it's on there. But the thing about it is, Ichidai third does not have as strong of a pitching roster as Sato does. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't think they do. So if Amahisa gets thrown out and replaced, then that pitcher is going to have, I feel, a lot more weaknesses that Sato can exploit in that final inning. If Sawamura gets switched out, I think Furuya's on his game, he seems like. I think that they're going to be in a fine place. I think if Sawamura goes out the 8th inning and Furuya comes in the 9th, I think they'll be fine because Furuya's all fired up and he's a good pitcher, and I think he can hold them off. I think he can hold off if they switch out in the 9th inning and let Furuya come in. I think that he could hold off Ichidai's batters. I think if they switch Amahisa out, they won't be able to do that because Sato's fired up. That pitcher won't be good enough. So I think they'd have to leave Amahisa in. And Amahisa's getting fatigued. It's not that Amahisa's pressured. He is, but it's not that Amahisa is reacting negatively to the pressure. It's the heat is getting to him. He has said several times in this volume, he's like, man, it's hot outside. God, it's hot. And we'll talk about Sawamura. We'll talk about Sawamura in a minute. But the heat is intense. And so I think for Kosei, it's not the pressure from the team that's going to get to him. It's not his fatigue that's going to get to him. It's literally the heat. He may have a heat stroke. He's been talking about it a lot this volume, and it makes me a little worried for Kosei. I'm like, is the heat going to get to him? Because that's his weakness. Furuya's been fine this whole time. He's like saved up all his energy. He could last an inning even in this heat. But I think that's the reporters are correct. That's going to be a crucial point. But Sawamura's not giving up. And I love that he's like, at this point, Sawamura's like, I can only do my best. I can just pitch to Miyuki's mitt the best I can. That's all I can do, and that's my job. And so I love when he gets that out, and he's like, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet. He's like, no, he's doing the osh, osh, osh. He's like, nothing is set in stone yet. Because if you start to get under your skin for an instant and think that they have a chance at beating you all, it's over. Like mentally, Sawamura's like, I'm the ace. I've got to keep high spirits. He's like, nothing's set in stone. I've got to be positive. Otherwise, we're screwed. And I'm like, oh my God. And so Amahisa, and the thing about it is, they established that Sawamura, he gets better under pressure. So does Amahisa. So Amahisa's just feeding off of it. He's thriving off it. He gets 3 outs, 1 up, 1 down. Just because he's like, he's on board with it, right? And then we get to Miyuki, and that speech from Miyuki. I really liked what Tetsu told him. He's like, leave your labels in the dugout. He's like, when you're up at bat, Does not matter if you're the captain. Does not matter that you're the fourth hole. Doesn't matter that you're cleanup. He's like, none of those labels matter when you're at bat. He's like, when you're on the plate, all that matters is that you swing to the best of your ability and hit the ball. And that's it. And I really like that because Tetsu is such an amazing batter that to get his mentality and kind of his thought process behind it, which I'm sure is also Masashi's thought process behind it. We'll talk about Masashi. But I feel like that it makes total sense. And it's so helpful for Miyuki because Miyuki kind of, as Tojo has told him, he gets inside of his own head sometimes and Miyuki overthinks things. He's got a catcher's brain. He overthinks things sometimes and that's to his detriment. And so Tetsu's like, no, don't overthink this. Just do this simple thing and you'll be fine. And Miyuki's like, okay, channel simplicity, right? And it doesn't work, right? It was so close though. There's so many. Sato has been so close to scoring in this volume. It's so frustrating. But yeah, Koshu watching Sawamura's frustration grow. Like Koshu's watching from the stands, from the dugout, not from the stands, the dugout, and seeing Sawamura just getting kind of frustrated. Like, we're so close, we're trying so hard, and we're just missing the mark. And then I love that the coach is like, Amahisa's like, I wonder how that pitch was. He's like, should I be proud of that? And his coach is like, godly. He's like, okay, good, glad to hear it. Kosei is just, I love his character. I know a lot of people don't like Kosei. I really like him because Kosei does not put up a front at all. He is what he is. He's weird. You just got to take him at face value, and that's all that you can do. And there's no tricks with Kosei. He's a genius, but he's not a trickster. He's just like, here's what it is, and just deal. And that's pretty much how he runs. But so Sanada, who's up in the stands watching, talks about how he thought he had no regrets leaving the field after losing to Ichidai third. But then he's like, why am I here if that's the case? And if you've never watched Attack on Titan, it will mean nothing to you. But the voice actor for Sanada is the same voice actor for a character called Levi in Attack on Titan. And Levi's big thing is about no regrets. #no regrets. And so when Sanada was like, I thought I had no regrets, I was like, I'm just imagining his voice actor saying it in this episode when they animate season 4. And I'm like, oh my God, that'll be amazing. Because it'll be like, you can just take the voice clip and just dub it on over to his character. It's perfect. But yeah, so Nori still at the dugout, and Sawamura showing, by the end of this chapter, of chapter 239, you see Nori being in the shadows. You see Sawamura being both frustrated and determined and having that resolve. And then Amahisa's just having the time of his life because he's like, everything's going great so far. We're doing good. No problems here. And then we get chapter 240. I wrote the most notes, I think, for chapter 240. I did. Because chapter 240 is so good. Chapter 240 is amazing. It may be one of my favorite chapters in this manga, in this series. But May, of course we have to start out with May. Anytime May like shows up on the page, like he was in like one panel last volume and I was freaking out. No, it's great. May's here. And May, everybody in Inashiro thinks that Sato is going to lose. They think that Sato's going to lose. That one guy, the captain of the team, he's like, well, Miyuki's gotten out 3 times at bat, and so he's their main cannon. They can't score. And everybody is doubting Sato. And May, in the most May fashion possible, is like, well, I guess Amahisa would be fun to throw against in a pitcher's duel. I guess. I'm like, May does not want to face Ichidai third because May has wanted to face Miyuki all this time in the finals again. He's wanted to challenge him again. He wants to play him at the top of his game. He knows Sato's team is good. He's like, nope, I want to face you all again. And so everybody in Inashiro, they're just so like surprised, but May doesn't want Ichidai third to win. It's not good enough for him. So I'm like, and Ochiai! So there's May. That's the first 2 pages is May just stealing the show out from everybody because he's the king, right? Then Ochiai says something that I'm in 100% agreement with, and I don't say that sentence often, but he says this is Sawamura's best game. Yep, it is. This is Sawamura's best game. This is our Sunshine Boy is at his peak. It is high noon, and I'm loving it and living it for it. And Sawamura, that montage of him saying, if we lose, it's over. our third year's summer is over if we lose. The moment we lose, it's the end. And he's like hell, I'll let that happen. And the moment he says, like, hell, I'll let that happen, he's looking at Miyuki as he's throwing to him. It's like, yep. And then Nori is fired up. I love that Nori is like, his hands like just clenched, like he's fired up. And then Miyuki is concerned. And he's cautious of Sawamura overexerting himself at first. He's like, you've been using that arm to cheer everybody on, which is great. He's like, are you overexerting yourself? Like Miyuki is like thinking and making sure that Sawamura is okay, because in the past he's missed those cues, but Sawamura is at the top of his game. And then I love that he's like, but that's just how you are. And they do the fist bump. That whole page where they do the fist bump together. Mwah, chef's kiss. And then Sawamura's like, I was just throwing it to your mitt. I'm like, love language indeed. And you think that that's where the chapter's going to reach its peak. Nope, it's not. Sawamura, he sees Nori. He gets fired up. And I forget that the pitchers kind of go deeper into the dugout back in the locker room to like get ready and get stuff iced and stuff. And in this case, Sawamura is changing his shirt. And they do that while Kataoka is briefing the offense, right? And so we get Sawamura fan service, baby. It's been 3 seasons. It's been 26 volumes, and we finally get some Sawamura fan service. I was like, we like got Shirasu fan service way before we got Sawamura's, but I'm here for it. And who shows up to see the Sawamura fan service? Not Miyuki. It's Koshu, our wolf boy. Of course he shows up. I'm gonna give, I love the Muramura battery. Miyuki and Sawamura is my fave, but I do love the Muramura battery. And I just love that Koshu, he's like, did you bring enough shirts? And I'm like, Koshu, you're so full of shit. You know exactly how many shirts he brought. You know how many he folded up and put in his bag this morning. You know the answer to that question. Why are you asking? But he does. And Sawamura's like, I brought a lot. So again, Sawamura's not dumb. He prepped for today. He's like, I brought a lot. I included some tank tops. And he changes into the tank top, which looks great, by the way. And he's like, the lighter the clothes, the lighter the mood, right? Ha ha ha. And Koshu is like looking at him, and Koshu is thinking like he's worried about Sawamura and his stamina, obviously. And Sawamura knows that Furuya is ready to go. Furuya's like on fire next to Yui, like in the panel. He's like, he knows he's ready to go. And then Koshu thinks that Sawamura is under extra pressure because Nori's not able to pitch. And so he's pushing himself harder. And he thinks back to that one game where Sawamura like exhausted himself within the first 5 innings. But that line when Sawamura is like, our team ain't going to be beat that easily. And I was like, oh my God, it was great. And then right after that, we cut instantly to Zono saying basically the same thing, being like, we're not getting beat that easily, and making the hit and getting on base. I love that Zono's like, our generation's not going down. Like, our third years are going to keep in the game. I'm like, ugh. And while they're doing that, Kuramochi and Miyuki are like analyzing Amahisa and trying to find an opening, trying to find a weakness. It's just, we got fan service, we got heart, we got Muramura, we got Miyazawa, we got Zono hitting things, we got Kuramochi and Miyuki strategizing, we got Nori angst. It's just like, that chapter was just, it's one of my favorites. I love it so much. And then we have chapter 241. And I like that the cover of it is Tojo, Masashi, and Kanemaru, who are 6th, 7th, and 8th holes, and Sawamura's our 9th hole. Kind of like Amahisa's the 9th hole. Again, parallels. But it's funny because we see Tojo bunting. He does a sacrifice bunt. Masashi swings long. He barely gets out. I was waiting for Masashi to hit that home run. I thought it was going to happen in this chapter. I thought it was going to happen and he was going to tie the game up. I thought so. He was so close. I was like, if Masashi hits it just right, I'm like, game will be over. But he's such a wild card because you just don't know what to do with Masashi. But it barely gets out. And then Zono makes it to 30. I like Zono was smart and made it to 3rd. Zono made a good eye, good play. That was great. And then Yuki kind of says, when Masashi's up to bat, Yuki is like talking about, well, just swing with all you got. So I wanted in the last volume for Tetsu to talk to Masashi, and Tetsu kind of talks about him in this one. But here's the thing. Tetsu and Masashi are so simple. They're very simple characters. They really are. Like, I love Tetsu to pieces. And Masashi is whimsical. Kelsey and I were talking about, like, why the hell do they say whimsical? I don't know. Maybe one day we'll find out. But they're they're meat and potatoes. They are bread and butter. They are as simple as it comes. Like, so straightforward. And I don't mean that in a bad way. But Tetsu's like, just swing with all you got. And that's all Masashi does. I like that Kosei calls him Bun Bun Maru. He calls him Bun Bun Maru, which is Mr. Swingy Swing, or Mr. Swings a Lot. I was like, I just now picture Masashi, because when I think of Bun Bun, I think of a rabbit. And I know that in Japanese it's Usagi is a rabbit, but I think of Bun Bun, which is a rabbit. So now I just picture Masashi with little rabbit ears. This big, domineering man that looks like he's 19 when he's 14 and is still probably going to get bigger. And I just imagine him with like little rabbit ears, and it's hilarious. But yeah, I like that Kosei's kind of thrown off. It's funny that Kosei kind of gets onto him for being aloof. I'm like, Kosei, you're pretty aloof. He's like, is he aloof? And he calls it creepy. And I'm like, but Kosei, you can be just like Masashi. So that it's funny that he says that. And then the whole time during all of this, Takami is trying to think, like, how do we get him out? Takami's like, what do we do? How do we get around this batter? Because if this batter connects, we're in trouble. And so he manages to get out, and then it's up to Kanemaru. And I got really hyped for Kanemaru. I did, because he's like, there's no meaningless outs. And he's like, we always mount pressure on the other team from the start. That's Sato's baseball. And I was so inspired. I was like, go Kanemaru. That's right. There's no meaningless outs for Sato. We mount the pressure on it. And then he's like, I'll steal it. I'll steal the show. Kanemaru is a little greedy, right? He reminds me a lot of June. I feel like Kanemaru is kind of like June. June was the spits of Sato. And Kanemaru is kind of like a dog too. He's like, well, we say that Sawamura is an Akita. So, I don't know exactly what Kanemaru's dog would be, but he's like a little dog, right? And Sawamura is like, that's right, show him, Kanemaru. But Kosei is like, the smaller the dog, the bigger the bark. Because when Kanemaru yells out loud, Kosei's like, really? That's what you got? Okay. God, we're still like 6 chapters to talk about. So, chapter 242, My Battle. My Battle, from the get-go, you think it's going to be about Kanemaru, but no, it's about Sawamura and Nori, mainly Nori, about My Battle. And so Amahisa, he's still pitching his all. Like, Kanemaru connects on a pitch, but it's like 151 kilometers per hour. Insanity. Kanemaru, he tries. Like, half the chapter is him just trying to get that. And it's so frustrating because Sato is giving it their all. They're trying their hardest. And Amahisa just keeps them at bay. He's just that good. But they try really hard, but he just fails and gets out at first. And it's like they got so close, right? So close. And Amahisa, this is the whole thing about the ace. Amahisa, he's like, he gets fired up, and then the whole team, it's like Kosei looks at his team and reflects, and it's like, my whole team is fired up. And the coach is like, they're all fired up from you, Amahisa. You got their spirits raised, and they're all so excited, right? And then Hoshida even has like the fist and everything. Like, they're all just, Hoshida's pretty scary in this volume, to be honest. There's some shots of Hoshida I was like, you are terrifying. But Sato starts to look down, right? And that's when Sawamura steps in, doing whatever he can as the ace. He steps in. He has his spirits high. There's no bags under his eyes. He's like, Kanemaru, you did it. You did it. You're the best. Come on, guys. This game is not over. We can't give up now. And I love that. Here's the thing. Miyuki and Koshu, they both seem like they know what's up, right? Miyuki, again, it's so frustrating because I want to ship Sawamura with Miyuki. Miyuki doesn't say these things. It's Koshu that says it instead as the narrator. But Miyuki, he kind of looks over to Sawamura like he can see right through Sawamura. He knows what Sawamura is doing. And he's just kind of like looking at him like, okay, Sawamura, you're trying to cheer everybody up. And he seems a bit tense. But Sanko, I want to make note, if you go back and look at that chapter, Ichidai Third, when Sawamura is yelling and cheering them on, there's a few members of Ichidai Third's team that look over and they're really annoyed. Like, we're the ones that are doing well, why are you guys cheering? Like, they look annoyed at Sawamura, which I'm like, yes, get under their skin, sunshine boy. Yui is amazed. Yui's like, Yui's like, he's so optimistic, right? And Koshu, like Miyuki, is staring, but Koshu, we get the inner monologue with Koshu, and he's like, Sawamura, you are the only one who can do this. This is why you're the ace. You're the only one that can pull everybody out of the slump and cheer them up when it's this dire of a situation. And we cut over to Furuya and Aso looking, being like Furuya's like, he's acknowledging it, and Aso's frustrated because he can only watch from the dugout. And then Nori goes to the bullpen and starts the shadow throw. And I was like, what are we going to do, Nori? But then 243, Nori being like, what can I do to help? How can I help? He's like, I can't do anything. He's like, I've worked so hard. I'm stuck. He's like, damn it, I'm not just going to sit here any longer. He's like, Sawamura is shouldering this all by himself. And he's like, and Sawamura's like, thank you. He's like, because Nori goes out there, he's like, Sawamura, you are shouldering this burden all by yourself. It's not fair. And so he's like, I'm not going to just sit here and watch you try to cheer everybody up and work your ass off. He's like, I'm going to do my part too. And I love that Sawamura thanks him. And when Sawamura is like, you're going to fight with me, aren't you? I was like, my heart. I was like, oh my God. Because yeah, Nori's like, I'm with you, Sawamura. With him in spirit, our guardian deity. And Sawamura was so thankful. It was so sweet, right? And then we see all the third years in Katioka. They know what's up with Nori. Sawamura, he gets in that mode. Oh, 243 is a great chapter too. Because we're 8 innings in, right? We're 8 innings in. And this is when it's getting down to the wire. It's getting into scary territory. We're still 0-1. It's like the sweat starts rolling off, right? And Sawamura just strikes Amahisa out like 1, 2, 3. And it's like, oh, I love it. And he's like, is he an Ubermensch? I was like, really, Kosei, you're going to throw that out right now? Okay. But that backdoor pitch, I don't know. I loved chapter 240. 243 was also really good. 243 was really good. Because he does that backdoor pitch. I don't know exactly what a backdoor pitch is. Y'all in the comments will have to explain that to me. That is a term in baseball I'm not exactly sure about. I'm assuming it has something to do with maybe striking him out in 3 pitches. I don't know exactly. Y'all will have to do it. It seems like a perfect move, right? And Miyuki's like, he just gets better under pressure. Miyuki's just like they're on fire, right? And I just love that. I love in the stands, you see the 3 retired third years. You see Yuki on fire. Like, he's so fired up and he's so, like, inspired. You see Tamba, like, in awe. Like, that's our ace. Chris looks like he's about to cry. And I'm like, his little lip is wobbling. Like, the way the Tearshima drew his lip, it's, like, wobbling. I'm like, I want to see animated now, today. Get on an anime team. You can do it. You can have that sketch out, right? And Furuya's standing tall, and Nori just raises the fist, like, 1 out. I'm like, 243 is an amazing chapter. This volume's amazing. I love this volume so much. But yeah, so 244, we get the idea of the pictures are... I love the cover with all 4 pictures, with Kaneda, with Nori, with Furuya, and Sawamura. That cover of chapter 244 is great. Nori recognizes Sawamura as the ace. It's wonderful. Furuya, he gets warmed up. He decides that he's going to get warmed up too because he's all fired up. I love that Furuya's like, we're just going to win. Like, that's all there is to it. He's like, don't worry, Nori. Sawamura and I are not going down. We're just going to keep winning so you all can keep playing. Like, Furuya is so cool and badass when he just does like the one line. He doesn't have to be all fired up like Sawamura. He just does the one line and it's like mic drop. And I'm like, And I love that Nori smiles at that. Like, the first time Nori has smiled in this whole damn game. Oh, I'm just like, it's so great. And so this is what I was talking about. I was wondering which chapter it would come up because it's come up throughout this entire volume. But Toshi-chan, our coach, he talks about how, well, you know, even if they switch out pitchers, no one can best Amahisa on the mound. And I'm like, yeah, Amahisa may be the better overall pitcher. By the end of the day, he may be the better overall pitcher. But what I like that Sawamura and Sato kind of embody is that we are not one pitcher. We are a team of pitchers. And the coach for each I third acknowledges that their team, their roster on pitching is deep and probably better than Senko's. And I think that's where they're going to win. I don't know. I feel like that in itself is going to be something that's going to play out in finals. If Sato wins, I'm like, the fact that we're going to be in the 9th inning next volume and Sato has to score something to tie it up and win. Maybe they'll tie it up and go into overtime. I hadn't thought about that. They could tie it up and go into overtime. There's a whole volume next. Volume 28. There's a whole volume. They could go into overtime. They could go into extra innings. This is why y'all want me to get Wine Chan. Reading this volume, I was like, to be honest, I know we're only on chapter 244. We still got like 3 more chapters to talk about after this. But I'm like, as I was going through this volume, I'm like, y'all didn't want me to bring Wine Chain out for this one? What? So, I'm trying not to get myself hyped. But I do know that next volume is going to be the end. Probably. Even if we go into extra innings, it's probably going to be the end of this game. So there's that. And I'm trying not to get myself psyched out, but I can see why you want me to bring Wine Chan out, but I'm trying not to get overhyped. I'm trying to just like go in with a blank slate. It's fine. But I do agree that Amahisa may be the better overall pitcher, but as a team, that's what counts, right? And so the climax is at hand, and Toshi-chan's like, he's telling them all, he's like, go ahead and grab, this is your time to get runs. We're at the climax of the game. So I love that the hands, I was looking at my notes here, I love that throughout this chapter we see the grip that Sawamura has on the ball. And the first ball he throws, he has this grip, right? The 2-seamer. And then the second hand, he has this grip on the ball. He has the 3 fingers on it. And I like that you can kind of see, like, it determines his ball and everything. Like, you can see how it works. I love that Terajima has that there. And then Chimaru comes up to bat. Chimaru had like one good moment against Yakushi, and then it all went to his head. And ever since then, Chimaru's been like, I got this, and then he hasn't got it. So I feel like Chimaru had a really good moment against Yakushi, and then it all kind of went downhill here. You peaked at Yakushi, Chimaru. I don't want to jinx the team, so I shouldn't say that, you know. But as he's at bat, I was a little confused because I thought for a second that the text that was in black, I thought that was Chimaru's monologue. It was Sawamura's. And going back and rereading, I was like, oh. Sawamura's like, this game is a checkpoint towards nationals. He's like, I am just a representative of my team. And he's like, it's not light. The soul of Sato is not light. He's like, but we are not the weight of just one person. I'm like, Sawamura's getting all poetic and stuff. If Kosei could hear his inner monologues, he'd be like, you're quite poetic, Sawamura. But yeah, I love that Sawamura's like, we're not just one person. And that kind of bookends this chapter where you have Toshi, the coach, saying that Kosei is the pivotal ace, the person that fires at the team. But then you have Sato being like, no, we're all in this together. And the weight of our souls is a combination of all of us. It's not just one person. And you see him and Miyuki yelling as they strike out Chimura. You see him and Miyuki like yelling at each other. And I will make note, Senko sinks a little bit in the stands. Senko in the dugout, they're like a little bit like a little frustrated that they get out, and that's the inning. So chapter 245, Kuramochi comes up. There was a sign that said Delinquent General, and I didn't know if that was like a nickname for Kuramochi or if that was Sawamura's walk-up song was Delinquent General. It'd be kind of cool if Sawamura's walk-up song was Delinquent General because Kuramochi's is Runaway Train. So I like it. I like Sawamura. Sawamura in chapter 245 is thinking like Miyuki, and I love it. Because when he's up to bat against Kosei, Miyuki's thing has always been like since the first of season 1, Miyuki's thing has always been that he's a catcher. So his whole thing is strategizing and realizing plays. And so when he's at bat, he is trying to think of what would the catcher call. He's like, what's the catcher going to call? He's like, what is the catcher going to ask the pitcher to send me? How can I react to that? And that's always been Miyuki's thing. And in this chapter, Sawamura is being like, what could I do to make Amahisa mad, to annoy him? What would if I were pitching and somebody was batting up against me, what would they do that would annoy me? Like, it's not exactly the same, but he's doing the same kind of like strategizing that Miyuki's doing. And I'm like, Sawamura, our boy, I love it. And Kosei, I love that he remembers watching that loss from the stands last year. And he's like, and I want to make note, the hat Kosei, why were you wearing that hat? That did not flatter you at all. And also, I think it's fitting that his shirt back in that flashback said Safari on it. And then a few pages later, we have Kuramochi comparing Sato to hunters, like they're on a safari. I thought that was a little clever nod from Terajima to be like, mm-hmm. Also, we get to see Ryo's shirt again, and it's like an alien being like, hi, how are you? Weirdest shirt ever. Some fashion choices I don't understand. Kidding. Joking. But yeah, Kosei, he doesn't want to betray himself or the team. He's like, I quit that one time. I regretted it. He's like, I don't want to betray myself anymore. And Kuramochi, he tries so hard. He's like, we're the hunters now. And I think they bring up a good point. I think Kuramochi brings up a good point to Kosei from the mound at this point in the game, because it would seem when you're at the 8th and ninth inning that the team that's in the lead would have the opposing team cornered. But Kuramochi's like, no. He's like, we're the ones that are cornering you because we're putting pressure on you now. It's like reverse psychology. He's like, we are the hunters. We're the one putting pressure on you now. We're not only trying to score, but we're trying to beat you. So I like that kind of reverse psychology of it, where you think the team that's down in points is the one that's going to be pressured, and Kuramochi kind of spins it on its head. I like that a lot. But yeah, I love that Kuramochi, he tells Sawamura, he's like, you fought well, Sawamura, and now it's my turn. It's great. He's like, you made Kosei pitch 8 pitches. He tells Sawamura, he's like, you got 8 pitches on Kosei. That's just weakening him little by little. We're chipping away at him as we go, right? And so that whole thing where he's like, I'm gonna murder you. I was like, yes, please. And then he connects, and Sawamura's like, I believed in you. And so we go to chapter 246, and the cover page is the Keystone Duo. Our 1 and 2 holes. It's great. Ochi, I liked the conversation, the mental breakdown between Ochi and Kataoka, where Kuramochi, he got on first base. He's starting to lead off a little bit, and Ochi is like, Ochi is worried. Ochi is very worried because we're getting towards the end of the game. We haven't scored yet, and they're ahead by 1 run. So Ochi, fittingly so, is worried. And so he's like, if it were me coaching, I would have told Kuramochi not to even try to steal, because you got out before getting picked off. Let's not try it a second time. Ochi is cautious, right? He plays a cautious game. He plays with his head. Kataoka plays with his heart. And so I love that Kuramochi looks to Kataoka and he's like, do what your heart tells you. Do as we always have done. We're not changing it for any reason. And I like that, because even though I understand where Ochi is coming from and being cautious, I like that Kataoka's like, if we try to change things now because of pressure, it's only going to make it worse. He's like, no, we need to just keep things as we know how to do it, and everything will be fine. We don't need to panic. We don't need to be desperate. We just need to play as we can only play. And that's all we can ask. Play like we always do. And I love it. And the reporter makes a good note too. The reporter kind of seems like edging on Ochiai's side, where he's like, that pickoff would affect someone mentally. So is that going to affect how his mind reacts? Is it going to make him more cautious and hesitant to move forward, and that'll affect the steal? It does, but Kuramochi is just fast enough that he makes it to base, right? So the reporter was right, but Kuramochi was just fast enough to steal the second. And I love that Sawamura is cheering and Ochiai's like, like, you made it. Oh, thank God. Like, Ochi was starting to freak out there, right? And then Kosei, I have down here that Kosei, he's telepathically linked with his coach's thoughts. Him and his coach are like on the same wavelength, and they're like, our defense is good. Which is funny that he says that, because the chapter ends with the ball like moving away from that one player, but the coach and Kosei are like, our defense is good. We can trust them. Just move forward like we always do. And Haruichi coming up to bat. I love that Ryo is rooting for him. Like, Ryo is rooting for him and Kuramochi. And I'm sure it's frustrating for Ryo from the stands to have to sit there and watch them play and not be able to be part of that duo that he was for 2 years. Probably. But what I like about it is that Ryo, he talks about Haruichi and says that you're in the same position I was, but you're a different batter than me. And I like that Ryo acknowledges, he's like, you are different than me, Haruichi. We are not the same when it comes to being at bat. And I'm like, yes, this is true. And so from there, Haruichi's like, Sawamura, you've been more reliable today than you've ever been, which truth. So much truth in this game. He's like, I am doing it for you, Sawamura. For Asian-kun. He calls him Asian-kun. He does it for him. And Kosei is like, everybody's out for my blood, right? He's like, man. He's like really nervous. He's like, man. But he's not nervous. He's like, man, everybody's out for my blood. And the Senko player misses the ball. And then we get to the final chapter of the volume. And I was like freaking out at this point because I thought they were going to score. I thought Kurochi was going to get home. Nope. Nope. Didn't happen. Nope. Kurochi gets to third. Gets to third, but the fielder gets Kaminado out. And Hoshida, I forget he's the first baseman. He is terrifying. Hoshida with that black shadow over his eyes and his beady eyes. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I'm like, okay. Okay. So he is scary. The crowd is totally into this game. They are like revved up. Everything is crazy. And then the third years. I love the shot of the third years watching from the stands. You see the third years from Senko and they're like, hell yeah, get him, Amahisa. And you see the third years with Kuromochi getting on third and Haruichi getting out. And they're all like I like seeing the retired third years watching. I had to go to another piece of paper to do the rest of my notes. But it's 2 outs. Kosei's like, man, my team's reliable. Good for them. And Shirasu is at bat. Our white laser. Our assassin. He's at bat. And I love that Shirasu gets a double spread. I was like, our boy has been... Because that's the thing about Shirasu. He's quiet and he doesn't stand out, but he's always been reliable and always there. And he's been a constant, right? Kind of like Nori, which is funny that that's brought up in this chapter. But I love that he gets a double spread. And I love that when Haruichi goes back to the dugout, Tojo's like, hey, it's okay. You did an amazing at-bat. It just worked out that way. We trust our senpais now. It's like, trust our third years. And Miyuki, him staring daggers at Amahisa. Amahisa's like, man, it's almost like he doesn't like me. And I'm like, no! We've been sharing pictures in the Discord. We share a lot of Miyazawa art in the Discord. Quite a lot. Surprising no one. But there's been a couple shared lately that have been like, Amahisa trying to get close to Sawamura. Miyuki's like, no. Like, no. Get away from my ace. And it's like, But yeah, Miyuki's just staring daggers into Kosei. And Kosei is like, thinking of his options. I feel like it's always been a bad sign in this series when pitchers get too ahead of themselves. Time and time again. When pitchers start to get too ahead of themselves, that's when problems arise, right? So Kosei... him thinking ahead and trying to be like, well, if I get him out, what can I do with Miyuki? I'm like, you got to play in the moment. You can't be thinking ahead on this. Kosei, this is not the time for you to be doing that, right? And then Nori is like, Kinjiro, maybe I missed it. Maybe it's been there all along and it has completely slipped my mind. I'm sure in the comments down below you all will tell me, but I did not realize just how close Shirasu and Nori were. Maybe it's been there all along and it's just like I've taken it for granted and been like, yeah, they're good friends. But that whole thing where Nori is on a first name basis with Shirasu, okay, and apparently they're close friends because Shirasu has a flashback with them like sitting there talking together. I'm like, when did this happen? I'm just like, maybe I've missed it. And Miyuki, he wants Shirasu to connect. And we actually see Shirasu get emotional. Like he grits his teeth and like, it's like he goes to bat and he gets emotional, which is rare for Shirasu. And then he connects, but that's where the volume ends. You know. Why not? I've talked for like an hour about this volume. God, this volume is great. This volume is great. The extra chapter was worth it, y'all. Chapters 240 and 243 are such good chapters. They're so good. They may be some of my favorites so far. This volume as a whole is one of my favorites. I love it so much. And it did not really, I mean, there was the moment with Chris Senpai, but it was just so damn good. This game is amazing. This game is just so freaking good. So freaking good. Yep, it's great. It's a great game. And I'm really excited. if Seiyo's gonna pull it off, it's do or die next volume. It is their only chance. I don't know. To be honest with y'all, the last few weeks, like way back at the beginning of August, in the Discord, I was told that Koshien was starting in Japan. And Japan's like 12 hours ahead of me time zone wise. So it's like 12 hours ahead. But someone shared in the Discord a link to the Koshien website where you could watch the games. And I watched the very first Koshien game. It was a lot of fun. And then I knew my schedule was going to be really busy. And so I was able to watch the semifinals and the finals this last week. And it was so good. But I'll be honest, both of those games, the semifinals and the finals, were all shutouts. And I was like, Terajima, get some ideas. But the one cool thing about the finals was that in the final game of the Koshien, now it was nationals, not the qualifiers, but the actual national game. In the final, the one player on one of the teams got a grand slam, and it was the coolest thing. And I was like, Terajima, if you could make that happen, that would be amazing. I know that Terajima is taking notes for the manga right now. I'm sure he is. So I'm like, if you can do that in the future, that'd be great. But yeah, oh my god. So yeah, we're gonna round out the semifinals next volume. Wine-chan's coming out. Decisions will be made. Regrets may happen. But I'm so excited to know your thoughts down below. I really want to know what y'all are thinking about this volume. Please no spoilers. Please no spoilers. I want to enjoy next volume going in blind as much as I can, but damn it, this volume was amazing. So I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Take care, stay safe, and yeah, I'm going to be back next week. Me and Wine-chan, we're going to sit down with volume 28 and maybe round out the semifinals. I'll see y'all there. Bye.